Let me get something straight right now. If you're waiting to feel motivated, you've already lost. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline is a decision. It doesn't care how you feel. See, the people at the top, they don't wake up hyped every morning. They wake up, they do the work, and they do it again tomorrow. Motivation is for amateurs. Discipline is for winners. And if you're tired of starting over, stop quitting. Motivation is a luxury. Discipline is a requirement. Most people wait for a spark, a moment, a feeling to push them into action. They believe they need to feel inspired, fired up, and emotionally charged before they can get started. That's the problem. They don't realize that high achievers, people who build empires, lead industries, and transform their lives aren't running on motivation. They're running on discipline. Because motivation is unreliable, it's fleeting, it disappears when you're tired, when it's cold, when you're stressed, when you've had a bad day. It's an emotional high that can't be trusted. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't care about how you feel. It's cold, it's consistent. It's what keeps you doing the work when no one is watching. It's what shows up when motivation has packed its bags and left the building. If motivation is a spark, discipline is the engine. The spark might ignite you once, but without an engine to keep running, you're not going anywhere. People who rely on motivation stay stuck in cycles. They start strong, burn out, and quit over and over again. But those who cultivate discipline, they show up regardless. That's why they win. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year, if they stay consistent. And consistency comes from discipline, not hype. Hype might get you into the gym on January 1st. Discipline is what gets you there on February 10th when it's raining, you're sore, and no one cares. Hype gets you excited about a business idea. Discipline is what keeps you working on it after 12 months of zero traction, and here's the truth. You don't need to feel like doing something to do it. That's a lie we've been sold. You can feel unmotivated and still take action. In fact, that's the definition of discipline: doing what you said you would do, long after the mood you said it in has left. The people who succeed in anything, fitness, business, relationships, don't rely on motivation to get the job done. They've built systems, they've created habits, they've trained their minds and bodies to show up, to execute, to perform, even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. That's what separates pros from amateurs. Amateurs chase feelings, pros follow the plan. Discipline is what gets the reps in. Discipline is what writes the pages, makes the calls, sticks to the diet, wakes up early, trains late, and keeps showing up. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they don't have talent. It's not even because they don't have time. It's because they're addicted to feeling motivated before they act. They're waiting for that right moment, that magical internal shift, but the right moment never comes. Successful people, they stopped waiting. They built routines that forced progress. They don't ask, do I feel like it today? They ask, what's the next move? And they execute. Discipline makes action non-negotiable. Feelings are irrelevant. Actions are everything. In a world obsessed with emotions, we've been conditioned to believe that our feelings should dictate our behavior. If we feel tired, we rest. If we feel uninspired, we wait. If we feel overwhelmed, we stop. That mindset is why so many people stay stuck. Because the truth is, your feelings don't matter when it comes to getting results. Your actions do. Results are not emotional. Success doesn't care how you feel. The market doesn't care. Your body doesn't care. And your goals definitely don't care. They only respond to what you do consistently. You can feel lazy and still get up and work. You can feel afraid and still take the shot. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. That's the difference between those who perform and those who rationalize. High performers act in spite of how they feel. They've learned that their emotions are just noise, background static that can be acknowledged but not obeyed. Discipline isn't about feeling good. It's about doing what needs to be done. Winners don't wait to feel ready. They move first and let confidence follow. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. There are going to be days when everything in you says stop. Your mind will scream, your body will complain, your environment will give you every excuse to pause. That's where most people fold. They let feelings lead. They quit because something felt hard. They skip because it felt uncomfortable. But feelings lie. They exaggerate. They twist reality. They make today's discomfort seem bigger than tomorrow's regret. That's why relying on emotions is a losing strategy. You can't build a legacy off of how you feel. You build it off of what you do repeatedly. When you stop worshiping your emotions, you take your power back. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You start making decisions based on principles, not moods. And the best part, the more you act against your feelings, the stronger you get. You build mental toughness. You build emotional control. You stop identifying with every passing impulse and start identifying with your standards. This is how self-respect is earned. Not by talking about what you want, but by proving to yourself through action that you can follow through. Everyone wants to feel good before they act. That's the dream scenario, but life doesn't work like that. Sometimes the work sucks, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're overwhelmed, but if you only act when it feels good, you'll never get anywhere worth going. Emotions are part of the human experience, but they're not qualified to run your life. You don't need to feel like it. You need to do it. Action breeds results, and results reinforce identity. You act like the person you want to become long before you feel like that person, because who you are is defined by your behavior, not your emotions. Success is boring. Consistency wins, not intensity. Most people think success looks like big moments, grand achievements, and explosive effort. They picture all-nighters, breakthrough ideas, and sudden transformation. That's not how it works. Real success is built in the quiet, unglamorous repetition of basics. It's the person who does the same hard things every day without applause, without shortcuts, and without chasing shiny distractions. The truth is, success is not about doing extraordinary things once in a while. It's about doing ordinary things consistently without fail. Intensity feels good. It's emotional. It gives people the illusion of progress. You start a new diet, go all in for a week, post about it online, and feel like a new person, but then it fades. The motivation burns out, life gets in the way, and you're back to zero. Intensity is a sprint. Consistency is a marathon. The people who actually get what they want are the ones who show up daily, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. They understand that greatness is not found in a single event. It's forged through repetition over time. Think about any area of life, fitness, business, skills, relationships. None of them reward intensity without consistency. Going to the gym for 5 hours once a month does nothing. Going for 45 minutes 5 days a week, that changes your life. Reading one book in a week and doesn't make you wise. Reading for 30 minutes every night for a year rewires your thinking. Shooting one perfect video won't build a brand. Posting valuable content consistently over time will. It's the accumulation of effort that produces outcomes. Consistency is boring because it lacks drama. There's no big payoff right away. You don't see results overnight. That's why most people quit. They confuse boredom with failure. They think if it's not exciting, it's not working. But the most powerful transformations happen quietly. Habits form, skills compound, momentum builds. Every rep, every call, every decision stacks up, brick by brick. Eventually, it looks like success, but it was never sudden. It was earned through relentless, consistent action. People who chase intensity often live in cycles. They go all in, burn out, disappear, and start over. They love the rush of starting but hate the grind of continuing. Consistency, on the other hand, is steady, it's disciplined, it's sustainable, it respects the process, and the process is what actually delivers the results. Consistency doesn't require you to be perfect. It just requires you not to quit. Missing one day isn't the problem. Quitting for 3 weeks is. The winners are the ones who keep showing up even when they don't feel like it, even when it's not fun, even when progress is invisible, because they know that mastery lives in the mundane. Waiting for motivation is procrastination in disguise. It sounds productive on the surface. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the right moment, the right mindset, or the right burst of energy to get started. But what you're really doing is delaying action. You're disguising fear, doubt, or laziness as strategy. The truth is, there is no perfect time. There is no magical wave of motivation that's going to sweep in and make everything easy. That's the myth. That's the lie that keeps people stuck, constantly planning, always preparing, but never doing. People think if they wait long enough, they'll eventually feel like it. They think motivation is going to hit them like lightning, and suddenly all the work will feel effortless. That's not how real progress works. Motivation is fleeting, it's emotional, it's unreliable. If you depend on it to act, you'll act less than half the time. If that motivation is what gets you excited at the start, but it's discipline that gets you across the finish line. Most people don't have a work ethic problem, they have a motivation addiction. They think they need to feel good before they do hard things, but hard things are what produce results, and they rarely feel good in the moment. Waiting becomes a habit. You start telling yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. Next week will be better. Or once things settle down, I'll start. But life doesn't settle down, conditions don't get perfect, and the longer you wait, the harder it gets to begin. Momentum fades, energy drops, doubt grows. What started as a short pause turns into weeks, then months, and suddenly you're in the same spot you were last year, just with more regret and fewer opportunities. Procrastination hides behind logic. It tells you it's smarter to wait, but in reality, it's fear playing dress up. Action is the only way out. You don't wait to feel ready. You act, and the readiness comes later. Confidence comes after execution, not before it. The most successful people aren't the ones who feel the most motivated. They're the ones who act in spite of feeling unmotivated. They don't negotiate with themselves. They don't give their feelings a vote. They've made the decision that action is non-negotiable, no matter what's happening internally. That's the shift. That's the mindset that changes everything. Every time you act without motivation, you build self-trust. You prove to yourself that you don't need to feel like it to do it. You separate yourself from the average person who's still stuck waiting. You become someone who follows through, who moves regardless, who builds momentum through motion, because that's the key. Motion creates emotion. You start, you move, you make progress, and then the feelings catch up. But if you keep waiting for the feelings to show up first, you'll be waiting forever. Nothing changes until something moves, and that movement has to start with you, not with your mood. Discipline turns goals into habits, not hopes. Everyone has goals. Everyone has dreams. Most people can tell you exactly what they want. The body, the business, the lifestyle, the freedom, but goals by themselves are just wishes. They're ideas without legs. They live in your head, not in the real world. What turns them into reality is discipline. Discipline is the mechanism that takes a vague desire and turns it into repeatable action. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it works. Without discipline, goals remain nothing more than hopes. With discipline, they become structured, measurable habits that compound over time. Hope is passive. It waits. It depends on outside forces. It assumes that things might get better on their own, that somehow, someday, the circumstances will line up just right and things will click. But discipline is active, it moves, it creates change by force, it shows up when it's inconvenient, it operates without permission, and that's why it works. Goals don't care how badly you want them. They respond only to how consistently you move toward them. People talk a lot about motivation, but motivation doesn't build habits, repetition does, and repetition is driven by discipline. Habits are what free you. They remove the need to constantly think and decide. They automate progress. Once something becomes a habit, you no longer debate whether or not to do it. You just do it. That's the real power of discipline. It builds routines that run even when your motivation shuts down. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your systems, and systems are built brick by brick. With disciplined execution. Discipline turns I want to lose weight into I work out at 7 a.m. 5 days a week. It turns I want to grow a business into I make 10 sales calls every day without fail. It turns vague outcomes into concrete actions. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't isn't ambition. It's structure, it's follow through. Everyone wants the result. Few are willing to build the habit stack required to earn it. Discipline is what bridges that gap. It's what transforms a long-term vision into a short-term routine. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent enough, long enough for the compound effect to kick in. That's when the real shift happens. That's when effort starts to feel automatic. People spend too much time trying to predict outcomes and not enough time perfecting inputs. You can't control when you'll succeed. You can control how many reps you get in before it happens. You can control how often you show up, how hard you work, how locked in your routine is, and every time you stick to it, you cast a vote for the identity you're trying to build. Discipline is the daily commitment to cast that vote, whether you feel like it or not. Over time, those votes accumulate and reshape your reality from inside out. You don't rise to the level of motivation, you fall to the level of your systems. Most people think they'll rise to the occasion when it matters. They think that when the pressure is on, they'll magically perform at their best, but that's not how it works. In reality, people default to the level of structure they've built into their lives. They perform based on their habits, their routines, and their systems, not on some sudden burst of willpower. Motivation is unpredictable. Systems are reliable. If you want consistent results, you need consistent structure. Without it, you're relying on hope and emotion to carry you through, which is why most people never get close to their potential. Systems are how professionals operate. They don't wake up and wonder what they feel like doing. They have a plan. They have a schedule. They've removed the guesswork and built a process that works even on the worst days. That's the difference. It's not about being superhuman. It's about engineering your environment, your calendar, and your habits so that success becomes the default, not the exception. When you build the right systems, you don't need motivation. You've already decided what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. All that's left is execution. The gym gets done because it's already blocked into your calendar. The content gets created because it's part of your weekly output. The hard conversations happen because you've made feedback a ritual, not an emotional event. Systems create order. They remove friction. They protect you from inconsistency. Because discipline isn't just about willpower, it's about making things easier to repeat. If you're relying on memory, feeling, or last-minute decisions, you're already losing. The brain is designed to conserve energy, to avoid discomfort, to seek pleasure. That means in the absence of a clear system, it will always choose the easier path, and the easier path rarely leads to growth. The people who win over the long term don't just work hard, they work smart. They optimize for repeatability. They build routines they can live inside of, even during chaos. That's the game. You want to be able to execute when you're tired, when life hits, when things go wrong. And the only way you do that is by having systems in place that don't require you to feel inspired. It's the same reason pilots follow checklists. It's not because they're unskilled, it's because the margin for error is too small. High performers think the same way. They build processes that keep them on track, regardless of emotion or circumstance. Your level of achievement will never exceed your level of preparation. If your life is built on random action, you'll get random results. But when you systemize your behavior, you stabilize your progress. You no longer need to rely on being in the right mood. You just show up and execute the process you've already designed. That's how consistency is created, and that's how performance becomes predictable.